Have you ever given so much that you lost yourself in the process? You call it love, but deep down it feels like anxiety. You keep showing up, fixing, helping until you're resentful, exhausted, and empty. What if your care is actually control in disguise? And what if your overgiving is really fear wearing a kind face? This is an episode that will lovingly call you out and call you back to yourself. Listen now to the Powerfully You podcast, where we choose what's best for us first. Welcome back to the Powerfully You podcast, where we turn our pain into power and our survival stories into soul truths. I'm your host, Sharitha. I help emotionally wounded, spiritually curious people heal from trauma and reclaim their voice so that they can stop people pleasing, start living their truth, and become unapologetically powerful. This episode is for the givers, the fixers, the ones who pour until they're empty and then wonder why nobody fills them back up. It's for the ones who confuse caretaking with connection, who give their time, their energy, their love, and their money, and still feel unseen, unchosen, and unappreciated. Let's go there because what if the way we love is also the way we try to stay safe? What if overgiving isn't love, it's fear in disguise? Let's talk about it. Is your care coming from love or from the fear of being unloved? I used to think my overgiving came from being a good person, loving, helpful, selfless. But when I did the healing work, I realized it was abandonment and rejection wounds running the show. I was giving to avoid being left, giving to giving to feel worthy, giving to feel safe. And I gave until I was almost empty. I'm grateful I didn't lose myself completely, and no shade to those who have. We're just on different journeys. But if this is your story too, but if this is your story too, you're not alone. And it's not too late for you to start choosing yourself. Why we overgive, attachment wounds. How many of us think if we are not needed, we'll be abandoned? If we give enough, they'll finally see our worth. If we don't handle everything, we are failing. Overgiving isn't always kindness. It's often a trauma trained fawn response. I remember the first time I looked it up. It said a survival pattern where you avoid conflict by pleasing others and losing yourself in the process. And I thought, yep, that's me. If you've been overgiven just to stay safe or keep the peace, that's not love. That's survival. And you deserve more than that. The belief. If I just love them enough, they'll finally love me back the way I need. This isn't kindness, it's survival disguised as compassion. The messages we absorb from culture, gender, and conditioning. We've been fed the martyr myth, especially women and black and brown folks. Be strong, don't complain, just keep showing up. Hustle culture taught us exhaustion equals value, even in spiritual spaces. Good vibe only sounds harmless, positive even. But when we unpack it deeper, but when we unpack it deeper, it's often just a pretty mask for emotional avoidance. Here's why. Saying how saying good vibes only can unintentionally silence real, raw human experiences. It sends a message that only pleasant, light, and happy emotions are welcome, and anything messy, uncomfortable, or hard is not allowed. So when someone is grieving, angry, triggered, or hurt, this mindset makes them feel like a problem instead of a person in pain. It's emotional bypassing, dressed up as positivity. Because rather than sitting with discomfort or holding space for someone else's truth, we try to vibe our own way out of it. But real healing, it happens in the both and. Both joy and grief, both peace and pain, both love and accountability. So when we cling to good vibes only, what we're really doing is avoiding emotional depth, denying complexity and protecting our comfort over connection. And that's not healing, it's hiding. And love and light sounds beautiful, warm, spiritual, full of good intention, but sometimes it becomes a bypass for boundaries. Here's why. When people say love and light as a way to avoid conflict, skip accountability, or silence hard truth, they're not spreading peace. They're covering up the pain with a spiritual blanket. It becomes a way to dismiss the real work of healing, setting boundaries, having uncomfortable conversations, honoring anger, and saying no when something isn't safe or aligned. Because real love, it's not just light, it's honest. It holds people accountable. It says, I can care for you and protect myself. But when we use love and light to avoid tension or spiritualize unhealthy behavior, we're not alive. We are being emotionally avoided. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say, this doesn't work for me, and walk away with your light intact. Let's be real. Overgiving is often a trauma response that society praises, but not because it's healthy. They praise it because it benefits them. They love the version of you that gives without limits. As long as I keep them comfortable, fed, adored, or financially supported. But the moment you set a boundary, now you're selfish. Too much, hard to love. Let's be real. We live in a world that celebrates people spending their last dollar just to impress someone on a date, but mock the one who says, I can't keep pouring from an empty cup. We don't talk enough about the giver who overextends themselves out of fear, out of rejection, abandonment, or not being seen as enough. Instead, we glorify the taker, the one who manipulates, gaslights, drains, and walks away unbothered. And society hands them a high five like they just won the game. But the giver, we shame them, call them stupid, naive, weak. In reality, they are just trying to be loved the way they were taught. It's time to shift the narrative. It's time to start praising boundaries like we've been praising self betrayal. Because real power isn't in how much you give, it's in knowing when to stop. When my love became a leisure. Let me be real with you for a minute. I used to believe I was the strong, unconditional one, the giver, the helper, the wise one, the one who wanted everyone to live their best life. I would help out, take them places, make sure they were okay. I wanted everybody to have their basic needs. Until one day, I noticed how bitter I felt, how no one was there for me, how others weren't doing the same and still getting love and attention. I gave advice to anyone in need then silently resented them for not taking it. I help anyone through anything and feel hurt when they didn't give a shit how I was doing or feeling. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't giving freely. I was keeping score. Of course, I didn't know it at the time. I was offering love, but expected emotional repayment. And when it didn't come, I felt used. But the truth, no one asked me to sacrifice that much. They asked me to help not to sacrifice myself, but they knew I was. I volunteered at the expense of myself, and you are too if you feel the way I did. How fear drives the cycle. Overgiving makes us feel needed, important, and safe. But under the safety is anxiety. If I don't do it, everything will fall apart. If I'm not useful, who am I? If I say no, they'll leave and prove I was never enough to begin with. The root, a deep discomfort with powerlessness. So we try to control the narrative by helping everyone else heal, fix, and grow instead of sitting with our own unmet needs. It feels uncomfortable and foreign when we've been given our whole life. Let's talk about what people may say when we choose to heal. Some people say we're too obsessed with healing, and we're turning it into a personality. Made it all about us. They argue that boundaries are just walls we build to avoid intimacy. That we're calling everyone toxic the moment they disappoint us or don't meet our needs. And you know what? On the surface, I get where it's coming from because then they don't have to be accountable for their actions. Therefore, they shame you for doing what's best for you because healing can become performative if we're not careful. It can become an identity we cling to instead of a path we walk. But here's the truth. Most of us aren't setting boundaries to avoid love. We're setting them because we never felt safe in love. We're not calling people toxic just to cancel them. We're finally recognizing patterns that have been eating away at our spirit for years. And no, healing isn't about making everything revolve around us. It's about finally realizing we matter too. That our pain deserves space, that our needs are a burden, that love shouldn't cost us our voice. So when they say we're too focused on ourselves, what they really might mean is you're not playing the role I'm used to you playing anymore. And that's not selfish, that's sacred. Let's sit with this. Where in your life are you giving but secretly keeping score? Where are you offering care but really control? Who would you be if your worth wasn't tied to being needed? Thank you for being here, for being willing to look at the tender truths beneath your patterns. This work isn't easy, but it's worth it. If this episode stirs something in you, that's not a sign you're broken, it's a sign you're ready. Ready to stop shrinking, ready to stop overgiving, ready to love without losing yourself. If it moves you, take a moment to like, subscribe, or share this with someone who's tired of always being the strong one. Until next time, stop setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. We're done with that shit, even if it hurts. And stay powerful.